Welcome to the Solomon Success Show, where we explore the timeless wisdom of King Solomon and the Bible as it relates to business and investing. False prophets and get-rich-quick schemes are everywhere. Let's not be distracted by these. Instead, let's go to the source, the eternal principles that create a life of peace, power, and prosperity. Here's our host, Jason Hartman.
Welcome to the Solomon Success Show. I'm Rabbi Evan Moffic. I'm a friend and client of Jason's, and he was kind enough to invite me to co-host this show with him. This show is about using the wisdom of the Bible, and especially of King Solomon, the wisest and wealthiest individual ever to live, to use those insights and templates for wisdom and success and apply them to our life today. Because what area of life do we need more wisdom for than the pursuit and achievement of a successful and meaningful life? And when I talk about success, when we talk about wealth, we're not just talking about monetary wealth. Sure, that's important. All of us know that. You're listening to this because you know Jason and you know his core success principles are about principles, not techniques, not get-rich schemes. It's about wisdom. And in that regard, if you text the word income, I-N-C-O-M-E, to 66866, text the word income, and then it'll ask you to share your email. I'll give you a 7-step guide to observing the Sabbath, to finding deep rest, which is essential to success. Rest and success go hand in hand. It helps us regain our perspective. But text the word income to 66866. This show is all about principles. It's all about wisdom and about insight. And you get this, I don't know anywhere else, podcast, internet, where you really get biblical wisdom for a successful, meaningful life, especially connected to real estate. You know, we have a special focus on real estate on this show, although we go all over. And today, in fact, there might be a little bit of real estate, but we're really talking about how to deal with stress and anxiety in the wake of this economic downturn and coronavirus. You probably heard the term coronavirus enough, and maybe you're getting sick of it. And I feel for you. We all do. This is a stressful and intense time. I have had so many cancellations of weddings, bar mitzvahs, baby namings, events that people spent tens of thousands of dollars and put in much preparation emotionally and physically to getting to this event. And boom, something happens in a province in China and spreads around the world, and it upends their life. This is really hard. This is a stressful time. And in fact, it's also stressful for a lot of parents and older people who have to stay home and whose whole routine is changed. Now, you might be thinking, oh, who cares if someone's routine is changed? What about the people who are sick and those who have died? Yes, this is not to minimize that at all. That's the worst case scenario. Those of us whose lives have changed in terms of our routines and our practices are the lucky ones. The people who really have it difficult are those who have contracted this illness, especially older folks who have contracted this illness and are sick and in the hospital. That's where the real pain is. But thankfully, that's just a few people right now. But all of us have had our routines and lives upended by this pandemic. So I want to talk about how do we recover some balance? How do we recover some perspective? And I found the answer just reading through my Bible. I found this wonderful verse. It's always been one of my favorites, but it just came across it randomly as I was reading the book of Proverbs. And it's, when there is no vision, the people perish. When there is no vision, the people perish. Wow. Think about that. It was written in the context of talking about the Israelite kings. King David and King Solomon, probably two of the most successful Israelite kings. They had vision. They had vision of a unified people, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, standing together and fighting off the Babylonians and the Assyrians. This was a vision of a united country, a united monarchy with a temple and with God at its center. And they carried out that vision. But many other kings did not succeed in carrying out that vision. In fact, one of the interesting things about the Hebrew Bible is that most of the politicians are terrible. Most of the people who lead the people are not good leaders. It's only a few, the ones we know about, King David, King Solomon, Hezekiah, Jeremiah. These are the great leaders. Most of them were lousy, kind of like today. Most politicians pretty lousy. Once in a while, you get a great one. But the vision was what distinguished great leaders, and it's true today. But vision and purpose is not just for leaders. It's for each of us in our own lives and how we structure our lives. And I've been thinking about that as, I have young kids and we're stuck at home, and I'm trying to have a vision of how to organize our days. And I think, and practice in implementing that vision. And to figure out how to carry out that vision, because when there is no vision, the people perish, I turn to one of my favorite modern books of wisdom. And perhaps you've heard it. I know Jason interviewed the author on one of his shows. I think it's episode 150 or 160 of the Creating Wealth podcast, which is now in the 1400s. So this is an old episode. But the author is David Allen. And he wrote one of the best books on modern productivity practices. It's called Getting Things Done. And what he said that effective planning comes in 5 steps. He called this the natural planning model. And the 5 steps are: 1, defining your purpose. That's your vision. Now think about it in the context of my kids being home from school. My purpose is to make sure that their learning, their education does not suffer while they're off of school. To put in a positive way, that they keep learning and take advantage of the time that they have to grow intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. That's my purpose. Second step, creating a vision of success. So this makes it a little bit more specific. So what does that look like? That looks like maybe they read 2 books, or it looks like they sit down together and do math for an hour every day, or they practice their instrument. So how exactly do you carry out? What does the picture look like when you're done? What's the outcome? That's the vision of success. And then the next step, the third step, David Allen calls it open-ended brainstorming. That's when you think about, how do we get there? You just literally write down what's on your mind. How do we get there? Do we have them choose a book? Does everyone in the family read the book? Do we have a family book group? Do we see what other families are doing? Do we use online math games and tools? What are those math games and tools? Just writing down whatever comes to mind, brainstorming. 4th, organizing thoughts and plans. So taking the results of our brainstorming, combining it with our vision and our purpose, and creating a plan. Creating an outline of what the plan has to include. So we pick a book. 2, we set a time to meet. 3, we carve out 10 to 12 every day where we're all reading. We set up the computer in here. Just what are those action steps? And the 5th is defining the exact next action we need to do. So David Allen is very precise. So what can you do next? What's the next physical action? Do you sit at your computer and go to Amazon and buy the book? Do you sit down and write out a daily schedule? What is the next exact action? I love that. David Allen essentially takes the vision of the Bible and makes it practical and applicable. And I think we can do that in any area of our life. Think about if you have an elderly parent or relative, and your vision is that you want to bring them some comfort and some hope during this time of isolation, of social isolation and social distancing. So that's your purpose. And what does that look like for you? What's your vision of success? How do you want your elderly parent to feel? You want them to feel like they're loved, they're cared for, they're supported. So that's your ultimate vision, is a feeling. So how do you get there? Open-ended brainstorming. Okay, maybe my kid, their grandchild, calls them, every day or every other day. Maybe we send them an email or card. Maybe we call one of their friends and have their friend call them. What are the specific steps that we do? Maybe we teach them how to use Zoom or teach them how to listen to podcasts so that they can feel some sort of connection. And then you take all of your brainstorming, organize it into a plan, and then define the next steps in realizing that plan. This is a beautiful model, because one of the best things about the Hebrew Bible is that it's not only about vision, but it's not only about details. It's about its pragmatism, its vision and implementation. It's a larger purpose and the steps that get us to that purpose. the journey through the wilderness to which the promised land was a vision. Promised land was a vision, but it took 40 years of step after step after step to get there. And that's how it's true in every aspect of life. So as we weather this coronavirus, as we weather this stress and anxiety, let's take these concrete steps to create some structure and purpose and vision in our lives. I'll be around here. Remember, if you want to make the most of this time of rest and get some perspective, text the word income, INCOME, to 66866. And I'll send you a very special guide to the Sabbath and really a guide to making the most of our time for rest and recharging every day of our lives. I wish you all the best. Shalom.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.